Hello and welcome. Now today I'm gonna do like a more of a chill out video. It's gonna be a flip through of this little book of sound chips, which caught my eye a while ago, and it's sort of, I've been wanting to get a hold of it ever since. And now the second book is actually on crowdfunding on the Fusion website itself. I'll link it. Please support it. I really want the second volume to happen. So yeah, please support it and show your love, because these are absolutely amazing. I will show you just how much. Okay, so the credits. Quite a few people involved actually. A few names that I see familiar. Tony Galvez. Oh, Alistair Brimble. Barry Leitch. Oh, Leitch, I don't know how you pronounce that. Martin Galway. Loads actually. So many to mention. Dedicated to the memory of Ben Daglish, Richard Joseph, Anthony Lees, and Paul Hadrill. So lots of people with a very musical background. And Chris Abbott himself. About the authors. I'm not going to read all the way through it, of course. It's just going to be like a flip through. But something about the background of the authors. Chris Abbott has been fascinated by computer game music even before computer games, being entranced by Moog versions of classical pieces in his formative years. A very brief stint as a game composer for Superior Software was followed by a period of real work until he bought an AWE32 sound card in 1994. Now, Andrew Lagan is a graphic artist by trade and a keen video game historian and retro enthusiast. He's also a hobbyist musician. His love for game music stems back to the days of the Sinclair Spectrum, with favorite sound chips being the MUS 6581. Yay! I said I like 6581 R4. My favorite one. And the SNES SPC 700. Now it gives you the whole glossary of terms. You have SSG, software controlled sound, software sound generator, amplitude, modulation, waveform, FM, wavetable, DAC. It just tells you all about these things. Actually, I could have done with this book when I was learning synthesis. I know a lot of these now. Oh. Well, I still can learn quite a bit actually. It gets into real technical stuff. Ooh. It tells you the square waves, the different kind of square waves that you have on different chips. Nice. So you have white noise from different chips. So you have from the TIA, from the SN76489, which I believe was the BBC Micro. Yeah, it was the BBC Micro. And Sega Game Gear. Sega Master System too, no? Anyway, so you have the AY. Yeah, so it's different. The differences between them. Because each chip has its characteristics. A square wave on one does not sound the same as a square wave on another. So here it starts with the Atari TIA. It talks all about it, the history of it, the sound of history. Since 1977, the early sound of video games has been traditionally defined by single voice melodies and abrasive sounds of J Minor's groundbreaking TIA custom chip. This created a stereotype of chip music as simple, ear-bashing, and out of time, a perception that only game musicians have been fighting for decades. However, the raw, apocalyptic sounds blasting out the television are electrifying, making consoles such as the Intellivision with much more capable chip sound slightly weedy and overly polite. Again, I won't read it all, but I'm dying to read it. It's like I want to carry on, because this video is just going to end up being like ages of me just like reading. Wow, it goes through quite a bit for each chip, for each sound chip. After the crash, before the crash, it's the entire history of it, everything. I'm gonna get into this. It's first I've opened it actually. Well, second time. It's like whenever I see all these, I can just hear their sounds automatically in my mind. Oh, this is just perfect. It's just sunny, beautiful, bright sunny morning, just nerding out. I'm reading up about sound chips. is what life is supposed to be. But it really goes through detail. All this is just about the TIA chip. I really want the I really want the volume 2 to come, because that's got my favorite chips in there. The SID 6581 SID, though I'm starting to really like the 8580 alongside it. They have to be together. And of course Amiga's Paula. And also the POKEY, which is over here. Casey's Munch. Ooh, this is video pack. Sorry, I got a bit too excited there. Oh, Magnavox Odyssey, Philips video pack. We had video pack, you know, before I was born. But I've always known it. I've seen it there, and it's always been there. And you know, by the time I came along, by the time I was born, it was faulty and just didn't work. So I was always curious about it, and I was told about Munchkin and you know, all these games, but I never got to play any of them. So yeah, that is definitely one which, you know, it's like I'm curious about it still. So this is the 1978 Intel 8244, and that is seen in Magnavox Odyssey. Ooh. I actually like the sound of the Magnavox Odyssey. It's got like a beefy tones to it. Single voice SSG mono. The sound generators worked by placing appropriate bit patterns into recirculating shift registers. This gave maximum flexibility while minimizing the computer program's work. Sounds are an important ingredient to video game players. The 8244 was exclusively designed for Magnavox. And as we've seen it in the Atari TIA, it often makes sense to create a single chip that combines audio and video capabilities when designing custom silicon. In this case, designer Peter Salmon, alongside up-and-coming chip manufacturer Intel, had a brief from Stanley Mazer to keep the price of the chip under $20. Every decision, therefore, prioritized that goal, leading to some complex and novel engineering. Again, it goes on. I'm itching to read about all this. I want to play on video pack. Magnavox Odyssey. Quirky single voice analog SFX chip responsible for some of early most gaming distinctive and iconic sounds. I hope in the future one they do the PC engine, they cover that. I'm actually curious about that because the it's the thingy chip. What you call it? Oh, everything's got on the tip of my tongue. Hudson Soft. I hope that's covered, the PC engine. I'm kind of curious about that. But anyway, I really like this. It's the way they show the illustrations of games. I love game screenshots in books like this. It's just, oh, I love this. Getting all excited now, I'm geeking out about this stuff. Examples of microcomputers and consoles containing the AY chips. That's the model this year. 1979 Intellivision. 1981 Elector TV Games Computer. 1981 NEC PC. 1982 Votrax Personal Speech System. 1982 Color Genie. 1982 Vectrex. I want a Vectrex! I so badly want a Vectrex. 1982 Intellivision 2. 1983 MSX1 Standard Definition. 1983 Auric 1. I'm curious about Auric computers. You know, it's like the Auric Atmos, and you know, I love the look of the Auric Atmos. It's like late 70s, early 80s color schemes, the orange and black color scheme. I really love that. You know, it's retro look. But I'm curious about it as a system as well, but there's no way of getting an Auric Atmos. It's freaking expensive. Unless you spend a stupid amount of money. Another system I'm wanting, other than the Vectrex actually, is the Acorn Archimedes 3010, the green FQ Polaroid. I've been after that for ages. Same with the Vectrex. ZX Spectrum 128, Amstrad GX 4000. Isn't Amstrad GX 4000 that spaceshipy looking thing? Basically, isn't it just the CPC? I see it as like the equivalent of the Commodore 64 freaking console. It's just like a Commodore 64 inside a box, cartridge at the top, without a keyboard. And you put Batman in there and it still says press a key to continue. What's it called? Commodore freaking... I don't know. Forgot the... Oh my god, I'm so bad with names today. I think I needed more coffee. MSX, the next big thing. The AY38910 was a part of the Microsoft ASCII MSX spec for home computers, and most vendors used GI's chip. However, compatible silicon was sometimes deployed, such as the Toshiba chip. This is Tony Galvis speaking. Developing a game for a preferred platform and porting it was a common practice for European, Japanese, and USA developers. The MSX system did not have a very powerful graphics chip compared to the Famicom PPU or C64 VIC-2. It had no hardware scroll, only 4 single color sprites per line and slow pixel drawing. As a result, they coded conversions with a kind of Spectrum screen emulation on MSX, with varying results. 99% of European releases were on tape, and most were Spectrum ports that were much uglier than they should have been. I've heard about this. It's like there's been some games where you look some MSX games where it says press J for capstan joystick or something like this. And it's an MSX. This is so lazy. The port. And they were also slow because rewriting the game to optimize it with hardware, sprites, and colors was too expensive. Some Japanese companies did the same, converting PC-88 games to MSX2, such as Elfco, Snatcher, and Gloria. These used only 8 colors of 16 and were also very slow. Tony Galvez. While Tony is right about the different clock speeds, this proved no obstacles to musicians such as David Whittaker and Tim Follin, who ported music data as is from the ZX Spectrum 128 to the Atari ST, resulting in the ST version sounding more stressed thanks to its marginally faster clock speed. I mean, it's essentially like the same chip, it's just the CPU speeds are different. But I am surprised that, you know, in the Atari ST, they just stuck with the AY. Well, it was called the YM, of course. But they kind of, you know, they could have got for something a little bit more 16-bit sounding. The Hollow Tiki 100. What is this Tiki 100? I need to look up this Tiki. I want a Victrex. I don't care what people say. You know, the Spectrum has its own charm. I mean, a lot of people compare it with the Commodore 64, but it's like freaking apples and oranges. These two different systems with two different, like, they work in two different ways. You know, the Commodore 64 has its own charm and Spectrum has its own charm. Yeah, you can, you know, kind of say that about the, you can have that argument about the Amiga and Atari ST because they're very similar. They even have the same processor, and you know the graphics look very similar and everything. You can, you know, with that you can have that debate and, or, you know, and you'll know that Amiga always wins. And I'm just, no, I'm saying that just because I'm gonna wind him up. Turrican 2 and Spectrum. I just think I've known about this. Efficient port of the SID, but the vibrato is overdone slightly. Oh my god, I wanna see Turrican 2 on Spectrum. The ZX Spectrum and PC beepers are small and move incredibly fast, so the filtering is weak, and the resultant samples are scratchy. The others are incredibly slow, so trying to use those methods to play a sound would only allow you to play extremely low frequency sounds. Oh, is this Cobra? I have to say, this is a really good game. On the Spectrum, even if you're not like, you know, a Spectrum fan, whatever, and you complain that it doesn't have any scrolling and things like this game will change your opinion. This Cobra. Joffa Smith did wonders with the Spectrum, and it almost feels alien on Spectrum because you don't expect it to have smooth scrolling. It's like a full-on platformer game. Martin Galway's Beeper Disaster. I sat down in Joffa's office to do Cobra first thing in the morning, with a plan to go back to whatever C64 title I was working on afterwards. He showed me how to put the notes in on the Tatung Einstein dev system, and I started typing away, composing as I was going. Ocean was continually adding stuff, and it was not uncommon for electricians to be adding power sockets and stuff. This was going on out in the corridor while I worked, and after about 2 or 3 hours of solid work and a really great tune being virtually finished, the entire floor had a 10-second power cut. Oh my god, due to somebody not communicating properly. I realized then that I had not hit save the entire morning and the tune was gone. We sort of laughed and went to lunch. When I came back to redo it, I had mostly forgotten it. Oh my goodness, that would... I have to say, Martin, I would not be able to laugh at that myself. That would get me, actually. So I started again with a new tune, and Cobra got the tune it shipped with, which got used on the Arkanoid. And what? Arkanoid after that. See, it's really nice knowing, you know, little bits like this, you know, part of the history. (1979) Atari C01229-4, in other words, POKEY. This is my third favorite sound chip. A crush on square waves. As you would expect from the successor to the Atari TIA, designed again by J. Miner, the POKEY is not straightforward to understand or program. It even develops the same quirky crush the waveform distortion principle as the TIA does, but on steroids. The distortion feature of the POKEY on any of these voices leads to startlingly unpredictable effects. Buzzy tones, for example, might sometimes be used to cover up note tuning issues. What this means is that the sound of the POKEY, whether it be grindy or detuned, is distinct and unique. If you're trying to get 4 notes in tune, it's also a little annoying, though detuned square waves seem to be the Atari sound at this point. Oh my god, I love this stuff. Oh my god, I really want volume 2 to happen now. I want to know what's written about my beautiful Paula chip, my Amiga. 1979 Texas Instruments, SN7 6489. Competent and cheerful sound chip that served us well without ever blowing our minds. As seen in TI 99, 4A, ColecoVision, BBC Micro, and many arcade games. The SN7 6489 was the chip that, when recorded to tape in a Manchester arcade in 1983, launched Martin Galway's composing career. He once said of this chip, "It's sort of a little cheerful chip that wanted to be cool." Martin recalls, "It was a place on Oxford Road called Pleasure Pastimes. There were 2 or 3 arcades in that area since the times of Space Invaders. One by one they closed. Pleasure Pastimes ended up being a place known for the fact that they didn't have anything new, but some people like to just play the old ones." It features in quite a few systems, isn't it? BBC Micro, Casio PV2000, a pointlessly incompatible MSX clone. Apricot computer, Apricot P portable XI. So many computers I don't know about. Coleco Adam and ColecoVision. Sony SMC 777. Memotech MTX, Sega SG1000, HP 9000 series, Sega Master System Tandy 1000 series, Sega Master System 2, of course, same thing, isn't it? Sega Mega Drive Genesis. Oh yeah, it kind of does, even though it's got a YM. It still sort of has backward compatibility. Sega Mega CD, Sega Pico Yamaha, copper. It's a chunky table, but not much of a match for the AY sales and presence, either at home or in the arcades. Arguably, the SN got its biggest audience by stealth sneaking into Sega Mega Drive Genesis with a Master System emulation, and occasionally being used in tandem with the more powerful YM2612 FM chip, for instance, in Space Harrier. Nice. I think we're gonna connect the Mega Drive up tonight. Rich hasn't got much exposure to it, so why not? Show him some. I mean, he obviously knows about it and he's seen games, but it's just not played on one much. Green Beret coin up. Jingles military beats and SFX to a single chip. The SN would have struggled with Martin Galway's original C64 title tune. Oh, that's such a Green Berets on C64 played on 6581 R4. Oh my god, it sounds really nice. It's got this really nice brooding quality to it. I really like that SID. But it has to be heard on the 6581 R4. Lemmings Tandy 100. Okay, actually I'm curious what that is like on Tandy. For me, Lemmings will always be an Amiga game. It's just, I don't know, it's just, for me it's like Amiga. Ooh, the Commodore MOS 9080 VIC. I'll say one thing. I've never been kind of that drawn to the VIC-20 as I have with the Commodore 64. I don't know, it's just... but, you know, still it's interesting reading about it. The 1980 Commodore MOS 6560 or 6561 VIC. Much loved, idiosyncratic and clever 4-voice SSG with a raw, distorted sound. As seen in VIC-20 or VIC-100 or VIC-20. This is a solid start for a chip designer, Bob Yanis, giving a taste of the incredible adventures to come. There is no SID without VIC. Masses, not Colossus. By 1980, sound chips in the wild were deployed in games consoles, in television VCS, coin-ops or pricey home computers such as Atari's 8-bit range or the TI-99-4, both of which had disappointing sales until they were reduced in price. One of the reasons why these machines weren't pushed harder musically and sonically was that the intersection of musicians and programmers was very small indeed. I have noticed that the sound of the VIC-20 is a little different than, you know, the standard. I can tell the differences with these chips, you know, how they sound a little different to one another. Oh. For the music, the main Pac-Man jingle at the start of the level is composed for 2-voice polyphony. Voice 1 is lead and voice 2 is bass. Ooh, pole position. I've got this urge to play Buggy Boy. Though I do want to try pole position as well, of course. This seems interesting. Altair. It's all background noise and no shooty noise. Many 8-bit sound chips provide a waveform called noise. It was often used for percussion and sound effects. The exact algorithms used to generate the noise waveform were different for each chip, but they had some basic principles in common. The noise channel was created from some sort of randomness. Modern chips can generate truly random noise, but 1980s chips with limited die space could not. Instead, they use a pseudo-random noise which sounded a lot like noise to our ears, but is mathematically quite different. To generate this noise, chip designers used what were then called polynomial counters, known today as linear feedback shift registers, or LFSRs. LFSRs were used for all kind of randomness in 8-bit computing, because they can easily be implemented in hardware or software, and they have provable properties. Before we get into these properties, here's a quick overview of how LFSR works. I just want to read all this, like, go and read all this one later on. Ooh, I like the graphics. And there we have it! The Little Book of Sound Chips Volume 1. Little Book of Sound Chips, but with big content. There's a lot here. You know, a lot. And I'm really wanting Volume 2, please, you guys out there. Please throw support for the crowdfunding campaign on Fusion website for this, because I want it to materialize. I want to have my collection. Anyway, so that is all for today. I hope you enjoyed. I'll give you the link to the Volume 2 crowdfunding in the description below. So yeah, please do go visit it and share the link around, please, for those who are or who may be interested in this. Anyway, for now, I will say adios.